Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Make a name for myself in this male-dominant industry. And I probably lost sight of, what the goal was with him. And I also don't know that we were necessarily meant to be together. I think we were very good friends. We had a great friendship. Something that's very important to me in, a partner or someone I'm going to be, spending that much time with is like, I love to laugh, and he was great at making me laugh. So I had that, kind of part of my bucket being filled. And there was no reason to really break up, but all of our friends in our circle were all married and they were all starting to have kids. And there was a lot of, when are you guys getting married? When are you guys going to take the next step? And so I think we just kind of succumbed to the pressure and said, okay, well, this is the next logical move. And so we did. And we had the full-blown wedding, like the beautiful ceremony down on the beach in Carlsbad. And, I had to have I wasn't even a bridezilla, but I had to have like the photographer that I wanted that, was outside the budget that mom and dad were going to give. So I spent plenty of time paying that off afterwards.
Oh, okay.
I'll just throw those photos in the trash can, but
no judgment here.
I'm like, But I mean, long story short, that's basically what happened. And then after that, it was like this overwhelming feeling of don't make the wrong choice again.
Oh, okay.
So I'm the only person in my family to be divorced. So my grandparents were married 74 years up until my grandpa passed. My parents, I believe, celebrated their 44th this year. Aunts, uncles still married. Everybody's still married. I'm the only one. I know.
And they're all in California?
They're all in California, yeah.
I think, and if you're in big city life, and I may be wrong here, but I don't know. I think divorce is more common in our big cities, and there's so much coming at you, and like there's temptation everywhere. There's marketing, there's messages, there's culture. So I champion to your family and your grandparents and everything, and I want to unpack a lot of this. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's huge, and you really do have a wealth of experience. So we will for sure go with expert. I think, a couple questions. I think it's really, really hard to be in a culture. You are your environment. You are, the 5 people you're around the most, what have you. So to have those messages around you, whether they're intentional or just in your environment naturally, I think are really hard. And then to continuously answer the question, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? I can totally see how it's just easy to do that. And then you have family modeling this example. Question on that. Are they genuinely happily married?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. It's the craziest thing. So like my grandma, I mean, if you can imagine, like she's 95.
Okay.
So she doesn't know a life really without my grandpa, but she's sustained. I mean, he passed a couple years ago, but it's just funny and that totally different dynamic of, a male pursuing a female back then. I mean, I've read the love letters, they weren't anywhere close to one another. He was, in the military and she was, back home, and the exchange of letters and how he spent like his entire month's earning, which was like $18 back then on like a compact for her. I mean, these type of chivalrous, things that we don't really see anymore. And then the other day, my mom was so funny. She said, if I had to be quarantined with anybody, I'm so lucky. Like I'm quarantined with your father. And I'm thinking, well, they're already in retired life. Like they're,
oh my gosh. Okay.
Anyway, so
this does exist. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not a pessimist at all. The reason I ask is because there's two sides to the coin of being married. Do you stay married because you're committed and you said you would do it and you work through it? Or do you stay unhappily married? And unfortunately, I know too many people that are genuinely unhappily married and they're loyal to each other. And that's, people my age or younger or people my age or older, even in their 60s and 70s that chose not to get divorced, and yet they can't stand the person they're married to, or they just live like a roommate. And I'm not here to judge any which scenario. I just know that if I'm going to commit to something, whether it's a work relationship or whatever, I would genuinely want it to be something that provides happiness in my life. And I would know that if I'm the person where it gets that I tried and we went 100%, it didn't work, I would be the person that's okay getting divorced and moving on to the next thing.
Right. I completely agree with you. And I think one thing that's been a huge lesson for me is I wasn't always that person, or I didn't always have that mindset. So I could easily have seen myself just enduring that relationship because I'm a people pleaser, and and I don't want to rock the apple cart, and also, or rock the boat, rock the apple cart. That doesn't.
We'll go with that. I think Grandma will understand that reference.
Just combining a couple of phrases there, but the thing that I think I've learned too is how one, like, your instinct will kick in, because when he told me that he didn't want those things, the Erin that I used to know would have been, wait, how do I fix this? How do I change what I want to fit into this scenario? But instead it was like, I had an outer body experience, and this voice just projected like, okay, then what are we doing here? Like, you better, leave. And so literally that conversation happened on a Wednesday. On a Friday, he moved out. And obviously it's taken a lot of time and a lot of, healing and a lot of just relearning who I am on my own. But like, I can say with 100% certainty, if I ran into him on the street tomorrow, I would say, thank you. Because the biggest gift I've been given is the second shot, what I mean? And just finding myself again and, feeling comfortable with that.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's huge. And this is why I love podcasting, because I think even within that statement for young women or even young men or anyone that's in a position that like you are in, and you can be honest and vulnerable in that and share that, I think it's so powerful. And I think it's huge. And I think there's no mistake and anywhere in the world that you happen to be seen by some professional podcasters and they drug you out and they're like, let's put you on the mic and you're talking about it now, because it's so huge. And I think relationships are so important, but the number one relationship is that relationship with yourself. And
totally,
it sounds so cliche until you grow up a little bit. Like, there's no adults here. We're going to stay we're young, but momentarily we were just talking about adulting and having to pay for like fridges and grass and like stuff is just not a Bentley. So it's as you get older and you take this time to really get to know you, and it's like, pull back and like, how do I feel about this? And as I said, doing even my core values, I'm like, God, I didn't even know I cared about being creative. And then I don't even see my house. It's like orange and neon, and I've got like all this random stuff. I love creating. I'm happiest, when I'm creating stuff,
right?
Even if it's flawed or, in a work in progress, like this podcast, I like the process. So just getting to know who you are is such a big deal. And I'm fascinated when these young humans get married and they commit to something so huge when they're just so young. And I'm not saying that young people shouldn't get married, because I think there are some really incredible love stories when kiddos they know something maybe that I just didn't. My process was slower. And they find this right person, this right fit before they're fully developed. And I think that's magical. And I think it's really worthwhile for our young people to take some time. Don't rush into stuff. If it fits and I think if you know something in your heart and you unquestionably know, lean into it. And if you're not sure, take some time. Get to know what you really care about, what you want, that other person, what they want. Did you guys talk about kids prior to getting married and everything?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he had like an oopsie daisy when he was younger, so he actually had a kid already. So that was also a little alarming. Like, if you didn't want children, like, you already have one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, and maybe too, like, he was doing a little bit of soul searching and just a little bit lost. And, like I said, that we were great friends. And so maybe, he just kind of also thought and didn't want to hurt my feelings. Like, I love you or I care about you, but I'm not in love with you. Yeah. But we just weren't mature enough to articulate, that type of dialogue with one another.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to break up, let alone, break up with then you have all your friends. And I don't know if you guys are living together or you have pets a breakup, whether you're married or not, it's like a divorce. It's brutal. And I've never been divorced and never been married. Obviously, I have to put one with the other. That's like apple cart right there, that Carmine. But my parents are divorced, and they got divorced later in life. And my mom's parents were divorced, but my dad's parents have been married. My grandfather did pass away, but they were married 60 plus years, I think. So it was interesting to me. It certainly provided perspective for me, knowing how much goes into a relationship. And I really do believe in marriage, and I believe in a true love, and I believe it can happen. And I believe you really need to be ready to work. Even if it's the glory butterfly, however you package it, it's work. And I think it'll be the most important commitment of your life if you choose to take it on. So it's also been a reason why I'm like, I'm still doing the work thing. I'm going to be honest with that. Like, I know it's a piece of my world. So I'm not really ready to commit on that level. And so I can't ask that of another person. If I'm, 50 and I don't want a guy that's 50. And so that's been a piece of it.
Well, I think that's good too, that you realize, like, with the children thing, that you're not like dead set on having, because it takes that pressure off. And I think that's one thing that's kind of been a hardship for me, because I have always known like I wanted to be a mom. And so now I'm 38, so I'm only, I'm right on your, coattails here.
Yeah.
And I haven't frozen my eggs yet either. I've done a lot of research about it, and I consider doing it.
Yeah.
But I think it adds this dynamic and this even like subconscious pressure that when you're meeting someone, you have to assess all these things like from the jump that you might not normally do, because you're like, wait a minute, like I don't have this time to waste. So I better like, ask these questions or operate in this regard because I need to know now. And it's like, that doesn't do anybody any service. It doesn't help the process. It only kind of muddies the water. And it's very hard too with online dating to know what somebody else's intentions are, because I'm sure you've been on the apps, right?
Funny story about that. I actually haven't. I'm on, no. And here's why, because I'm also like a totally random animal, but as a female in a basically male dominated workspace, there's zero chance I'm going to walk into a room knowing that, 6 or 7 of my male counterparts have seen me on a dating app, whether they swiped or didn't or whatever. They see me in that light. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable. And people say, it's 2020, things are equal, whatever, which we know they're not. I'm just so not good with that. And it's particularly in the health and wellness and fitness space, it's a very sexy, sex-driven industry. So when you walk in, like I don't know about you, but I don't walk in ever with like sleeveless shirts, or like I'm always appropriately covered. I'll probably still wear like yoga pants with like a long shirt or something. Because I do have a life rule that I'm always one layer away from workout ready. So we always have like the bases covered. I know that sounds crazy. And I'm always one song away from a good mood. Those are like my 2 life rules. But I go in, covered, because it's weird. And I don't want to be looked at like I'm walking in, even looking at the guys being like, oh, hey, we're here to work, but also, what are you doing at 5 o'clock? Or let's grab a drink after this. Or, I really want to be respected in that space. And I've been around the block for a minute now, so I'm a little bit less sensitive now. And apps were still, they weren't really that relevant when I was like starting my business and stuff, but I was always very conscious to keep those 2 worlds incredibly separate. Like I don't date guys from the gym. That might happen a couple times, but for the most part, I really do. I try and keep it separate, because I don't like muddying those waters, and I don't think it's worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hear you. In my business too. So, like I mentioned, it's primarily male dominant. So, I know that just because I'm a female and I walk into a dealership, I might get somebody, get a meeting with somebody that if a male were to walk in, they may not get. But I never want to sell something because of my femininity or because of how I dress or whatever. Like, I want them to respect me for my brain. Totally. And I'm saying, like, there are females who will play that up, but I'm very much with you on that. Now, we do have an interesting thing, because I do have to entertain with these, dealers, and they love to party. And so you find yourself in these like environments.
Team tequila.
Like, okay, Mr. Dealer. Yeah, exactly. Team tequila. That's me trying to get, like the Mormons to take shots. I'm like, okay.
Yes.
If I can do that, then I'm the ultimate closer.
I'm here for that. Did that work out?
It did not.
Oh, okay. Well, A for effort. We're here. We got to get next client. You don't need to win them all. It's okay.
Right. I'm like, oh, Erin.
Yeah. See, and on the flip side, I don't fully even agree with my own actions, because I do think it's really important, if you are intentional about having a relationship, about really putting yourself out there and being in the mix of things and being open, because you don't really know how it's going to happen or what the right thing is. Although I did have an intuitive, I'm super into like energy and everything around that angle. I don't know if you are, but I had an intuitive tell me like, don't waste your time with the apps. It's probably going to come through your work, as I'm sitting here saying like I avoid it through my work, and it'll be this situation and all these things. And so I was kind of had that in the back of my ear to be like, do I really need to put energy into this? I'm on the League, which I do the free version. One of my friends is on it, and she needed people to sign on to get it for free or something. It was like 2 years ago. So I leave that just as like practice, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't really, I'm not really good about it.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I would agree. So here's the funny thing. The job thing, the only reason why in a scenario like for you and I, because we do spend so much time working, and that is our focus, and that's where our passion lies, and where probably we exude our best energy, because like you said, like that's what fills your bucket. That's what gets you going, like being creative and like, so you're probably like the most attractive to the opposite sex in those moments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, like, if that's where you're spending the majority of your time, of course that's where you're going to bump into somebody. But I agree, apps are tough. But what I was going to say to you about them is, they're in LA especially, there are all these men who are between like 40, like let's say 43 and 50. So that's kind of like the sweet spot age, right? For myself, who don't know if they want a relationship yet, but say that they want kids someday. And I just find that to be so confusing, because I'm like, well, when is it?
Yeah. That's
like, when do you plan on doing this, Peter Pan?
Do you? I think I'm not even gonna hate on Peter Pan, because that's probably me. Like when you say 40 to 50, and I'm again 39, that's like, oh, that's a little older for me. Like I'm usually dating younger, but
go that high?
Oh, 50? See, and so same intuitive was like, well, there'll be one thing that you have to get over, whether it's, something like some major thing. And I was like, oh, well, you're unselling me on marriage as a whole right now. So we're just going to, stay. I call my house the dollhouse. We're staying in the dollhouse with the dogs and just keep it simple. But I don't know. It depends on the human and how they live. But I still, I'm still here with Team Tequila and having fun. If the lifestyle's the same, I'm not an ageist. Like I'm open-minded to whatever if it genuinely fits. Let's just say that.
Right.
But traditionally, yes, that would be outside my range.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe in LA it's different, but I'll be honest. Like typically, who I think fits in my age demographic, they really want the girl that's 10 years younger. Which is hard,
I completely believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that probably then doesn't really mesh with what you actually want. Like I'm assuming my number one demand at this point, being where I'm at, is a secure man. And I wholeheartedly say that. Like I want you to know where you stand in life. Well, you don't have to have everything figured out, because I certainly don't. But really secure in where you are with yourself, your looks, your body, your job, your fitness, whatever. Like you really know where you stand in this world. And then probably ambition would be number 2. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. And especially somebody who's secure enough to know, like, like for me, I'm traveling all around. I don't want to like have trust issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it just needs to be like, we're in this together, it is what it is. When if something's going wrong or I've got something on my mind, like I've definitely learned, you got to communicate and just air it, whether you like confrontation or not. And maybe it's not even confrontation, it's just communication.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we've been told to maybe, especially as women, not express ourselves or feel as if we don't have, an equal say when we should, and we do.
Well, I think, we can, and by we, I mean like women like us, we can kind of fall into that role, which I certainly have, and not use my voice, mostly because I was just tired and I just didn't want to do the work, which isn't acceptable. Mm-hmm. But, it wasn't meant to be within that relationship anyway. So you learn at it each time you learn. So you can, kind of play that role and fall into it. But long-term knowing yourself, if you are someone that, expresses themselves or has something to say or wants to live a certain way, it's only a matter of time till you realize you're unhappy. And until you use your voice, nothing's going to work. Yeah. So that game really only goes so long. Mm-hmm. So wait, I really want to hear, can you tell me just a couple of these like dating stories? Like you talk about your grandfather writing these, beautiful pen pal letters, and then now in 2020 we're like getting DM'd nudes. So it's it's like the cultures, we can want those love letters, which I would be here for those 100%. But the reality is the culture and our communication with men and the relationship game is very different. Can you maybe give me like one of your favorite dating stories or something off the wall?
I've shared this story a couple times. So I matched a guy. So I am no longer on Tinder. Tinder is just the worst, in my opinion. It's fun for a little bit of entertainment, but beyond that, like, your soulmate is never going to be on. And I will stand corrected if somebody wants to let us know, but Tinder is like, ugh. So he and I matched on Tinder. He invites me to go out to dinner. He actually picks a very nice place. And, this was kind of when I was like getting back into the dating game after, feeling good about it. It took me a long time. I mean, I probably, it was a few years before I was like, okay, I'm mentally ready, So I go meet this guy, and we have like a nice dinner at one of the local restaurants in Manhattan Beach. Have a couple glasses of wine. Things are going good. Conversation is flowing. He's telling me about his job, and he owns his own company. And I'm like thinking like, ooh, this is going great. And no awkward silences or anything like that. And so we kind of finish up, and he goes, well, would you like to go get another drink? And I was like, sure. So I take him down the hill to my favorite bar, which is like the diviest of dive bars.
Yes. Oh, we are in the same sorority. I love all of this. I'm here for it.
It is my favorite. I know Rico, the bartender, very well. And Rico and I have an agreement. So when I bring a date in there, we do the thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down test, right?
Yes.
And so he's seen me pretty much on every date I've ever been on, and there's a lot of these usually. Sometimes we'll get like but let's just, So we go down there, we order another drink. It might do, just as on a first date, it's very nice when the guy pays the bill. So we paid the bill up there, he bought the drinks at this bar, whatnot, and he wanted to play the cube game with me. Do you know what the cube game is?
I don't think so. People call different things. So I don't know. What is it?
So he just starts this. Well, he asked if I'll play, and I'm like, sure. And I've never heard of it, and I have a blog post on it, so I'd have to look it up to give you all the details because it's kind of like repressed in my brain. But essentially, he has you like describe a cube, and the cube is in the middle of the desert, and then he has you describe like a ladder, and you say like where the ladder is to the cube, and then he has you describe let's see what else, like there's a storm, and how close is the storm to you. There's all these different things, right? So it goes through this scenario, and basically it's a story about yourself and how you view yourself and your relationships and all of this. So I will have to give it to you because it's very interesting you should do it before I spill all the beans, just to see like how you view yourself and all that. So I'll send that over to you. But anyways, I don't know if it was an epic fail what I answered or what, but that seems to be the turning point in the evening. Up to this point, everything's going great. And I'm thinking, okay, and so he goes, I got to go to the bathroom. Well, this is the diviest dive bar with the bathrooms are not the greatest. Like, I've pretty much heard from my male friends that there aren't doors on there.
Oh.
And I left out a key part. I'm ruining the punchline here, but he had told me earlier he had sushi with his friends, but his tummy was a little not feeling well.
Okay.
So I'll connect the dots in a second. But so he goes to go to the bathroom, and I'm a talkative person. Like I said, there's no such thing as stranger danger. So when I'm left at the bar, I've got Rico there. I've got these two gay guys next to me who I'm obviously going to befriend because I love a gay. And so I turn to my left, and we start communicating, and I'm telling him I'm on a Tinder date and yada yada. And we keep talking, and I keep looking back, and he is not coming out of the bathroom. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, what happened? Did he get sucked in? Like, what's going on? And so finally one of the guys says, well, Erin, he hit the ATM machine and bounced out the back door 5 minutes ago. And I was like, wait a minute, no. And I'm described, and they're like, yes, the guy you were sitting next to. And I'm like, well, there's not very good reception by the beach. So I run outside. I try to call him, doesn't answer my call. I shoot him a text and I'm like, that's literally the meanest thing anyone's ever done. Wow. Like I got left at the bar. And mind you, like I thought things were going great. So where's the, disconnect here? And he basically said that he came out the bathroom and saw me talking to the guy and thought I was interested in him. And so he left.
Seriously?
But I'm convinced that he ate bad sushi earlier in the day, shit his pants, and had to get out the back door. I don't know why he had to get, cash out the ATM first. I'm going to go with I don't know. But yeah, isn't that crazy? So I got left in, yes. And then a couple months later, when, like I said, I used to write about all my dates. So I was blogging about this date. And I don't know what it was, but I came across him in another woman's blog, and she matched him on JDate and had similar things to say about him. So isn't it funny? It's just a small world.
Oh, well, people, again, this is why I didn't do it in the first place, because Colorado and Denver is so small. And it's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Oh, by the way, my mom knows your brother from high school and their dog groomers, whatever. And it's too small of a space. And people don't even know. It's not just you know each other. You know backstory on people, and they know your backstory, and that's fine. I mean, it keeps everybody 100, whether you know it or not. But people, and I'm going to call it fellas here, don't recognize, in my experience, that it is that small of a world, and you're not getting away with murder here. Like, we see you. We're here. Read the room.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is like common also, males listening, for us females to screenshot your profile and text it to our girlfriend and be like, stay away, or, this guy's a douche, like whatever the case may be. But, I mean, that does happen, because why let my sister waste her time?
It's just like influencer. Yeah, it's just like influencer marketing. If you don't like a product, or it didn't work, or a bad service, or don't go to this gas station, whatever, you're going to tell your people, and then there's no good marketing that can undo bad marketing. So, or bad experience. So you have to mind your P's and Q's, and women too. Like, we got to put your best foot forward, because the world's going to see what you're doing, and there's no secrets in this game. But wow, just to leave, that's such an immature response. But if that's how he deals with things, better on you to just be done right away. Don't waste any more time.
Totally, for sure. But that's when like you're, growing a thicker skin, because I think you have to have like thick skin to date. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially if you're going to use apps, because app culture is very bad. There's a lot of ghosting. There's a lot of, waste my time, no offense, like, writing back and forth, then all of a sudden they're just gone poof, and you're like, well, what happened? So it's just, you don't know people's intentions or how invested they are. So, I definitely like your, thought process about meeting somebody in person. Just obviously right now in the situation that we're in, that's a little bit more difficult.
I like that you said app culture. That's something I haven't heard yet, and it's so 2020, and I'm here for that. I think you nailed it. And I have heard, again, I've never been on Tinder, Hinge, or any of these, but I have heard certain things about certain ones. So I know there's different cultures for each thing, or for each. So I assume one's more of like a hookup, one's more serious. And have you done the eHarmony, like the more formal ones?
I have. So I pretty much tried everything.
Okay.
I mean, we'll call it market research, or we'll call it like just seeing what's out there. But I didn't have great luck on eHarmony. I also got really burnt out in the process.
Yeah.
I thought, I see how a lot of people probably do find their, significant other on there, because there's a lot involved until you actually, get to the meetup. I kind of felt like I was applying for like a college scholarship or something.
Yeah.
There was a lot of essay writing, I felt like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like back and forth. They prompt you with questions, and then, you're kind of writing your response to these questions, which is good because you're like building a foundation, and it's not around, necessarily totally physical attraction. You're more getting matched on, who you are as a person, and that type of thing. But it was a lot of effort, and I'd rather find those things out about somebody in person. Because what I've learned recently too, especially during quarantine, is you can meet somebody. Like, I've asked the universe to bring me like I've, made my ideal man and kind of thrown it out there, not to be like, oh, he has to be 6 foot, check, nothing like that. But like, this is the type of man I want to attract. And I was really shocked because the universe delivered. And I was like, whoa, like shit's getting real here.
Yes.
And, I was like, really like, kind of taken aback. I'm like, oh, this works, But then what I realized is that major component of chemistry, like I need to revise my list because if the chemistry isn't there, who cares if he checks all the boxes or, he's everything you thought you wanted. You have to have that connection.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's, again, getting to know yourself. You don't know what you want if you don't fully know yourself, which I think is a continuing process forever.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to really be open-minded to just following like your heart, again, cliches, versus like, here's what I'm attracted to. Because I do think those things you actually want and need may not be in the package you thought that you wanted.
Totally.
And that's kind of scary in itself because you don't know when to like dismiss some things. Because the other side of that dating, which I'm not good about, is it's a time investment and it's a heart and energy investment. And I can deal with the heart and energy a little bit. I've learned I'm much more sensitive than I thought. But I've got a thick skin. I'm good around some things, but that scenario, I am pretty sensitive. But man, the time and energy, like I'm resentful when something sucks my time, and that's a huge piece. Huge.
Right.
But it's also necessary.
Yeah. And I think I've learned my lesson the hard way there too, because I've been stood up. I've gone to the bar where we were supposed to meet and he's never come in the door and, then not responded to the phone call or the text. And, I had a long discussion. So I have like a gay husband who I swear is my soulmate. He just is gay.
Minor detail.
And he is the best.
Yeah.
But he's the guy I call, when the things go wrong or if they go right, and he wants the story.
Yeah.
But what he told me, and I think this really hit home, was like, I was bitching because I'm like, well, I got dressed up. I put on makeup. Like I would have just come home and put on my comfies. And he's like, Erin, you never get dressed up for a man. He's like, you get dressed up for you. If it makes you feel good, then that's what you do. But if you don't want to, he's got to accept you and, want to be with you for who you are in the core, and I'm like, that's so true.
Yeah.
Why am I trying to, project something that I'm not always, going to be, if you will, it's like looking at someone's great Instagram reel and you're like, wow, like, she's got it all together. And then, you're
like, no, that's
she's
the
got
highlight
Monday
reel.
hair.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's when I really do believe in these authentic experiences. And I think apps can work for certain people, just like certain kind of nutrition plans or certain workouts. Like some people like CrossFit, some people like aerobics, some people like swimming or not working out at all, whatever. I don't think it's a one size fits all. And I don't think the apps are great for all personality types. I do think, more of like the extroverts or people like us where you can be out there and you can see people in their authentic space. Or, at the gym when you do look disgusting, or in your work when you are just like in your bright light and you are good at what you do. And that is like your most appealing self. I think it happens in those arenas, if you will, when, you're the most open yourself and into accepting and opening your heart and mind to people that are around you. And I think that kind of goes back to getting to your best space, your best self, and being your best energy. And then that naturally pulls in like energy, maybe not even best energy in the world, but something that's complementary to you.
Yeah.
So
somebody who meets you where you are.
Yeah. So I'm keeping the faith on that and not doing Maybe that's just my justification process to be like, nah, man, we can't do Tinder. We can't show up at a meeting and be like, oh shit, I definitely swiped whatever, then not accept is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No. Well, so we have, like a sales meeting every January and like 3,500 of our employees are there.
Okay.
So if you crack open your dating app, you are bound to see like, a fraction of the company in there and you're just like, okay, this is all bad.
Have you done that?
Say it again.
Have you done that? I mean, there's got to be some good pickings.
Yeah. Okay. See like who's out there, what they're and I will tell you too. And I mean, obviously, on those apps, there are certain apps that will show you the male and the female profile, even if you're saying I'm a woman interested in a man.
Okay.
But it's interesting too to see the men who are married. who have a profile. And, you know, and maybe they think because they're traveling and, you know, they're not equating, oh, you know, there's single women in the company who might be swiping by, you know, a profile or whatnot, or maybe they accidentally left it, whatever the case may be, but it's like, okay, you know,
then you
bust it.
Yeah, well, I mean, granted, 2020, it might be an open relationship. It might be something that totally works. So that's fine. But if it's like a hiding, not everyone knows about it, and it's essentially you're just cheating. If I can avoid even doing business with those kind of people, because I think when you lie about something in one arena, you're probably going to lie about it in another, and there's enough biz in the world that I'm going to pass on that. So I think there's intel within there. And unfortunately, I do know a lot of people that when they're on the road, it's like no rules. And it's socially acceptable amongst them, their boys, or even their girls, that they have these outside relationships or even, you know, places like athletes that have, you know, they call them F-pads, you know, where they go and hook up in other cities and they meet women there. And and some women and men know, and they're kind of the nature of the beast. They're down with it, and a lot don't. But again, I'm going to pass on all that.
Yeah, right. I'm like, things are too complicated as it is. Like,
yes.
You know, I'm just trying to manage one situation. Like, if I can find the right one.
I do think, though, in culture, that most people would rather be with somebody in a shitty relationship than be alone.
Oh, really? You think that?
I do. I think culture and society really pushes you, especially being, you know, a female over 30. You know, it's why aren't you married? What's wrong? And I would think that too. I'm like, oh God, she's, you know, 38 and not married. I wonder what's up there. And I'm of that. Like, so I think it's just ingrained in our minds to be like, oh, something must be up there. And now kind of be on that side. I'm like, what's right? Like, what did you know that I didn't? Or what perspective are you coming from? Because I still think that's rare. And I think society chalks it up as, what's going on there? Like, there must be some major red flag happening.
I would agree with that. And I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to start my podcast, is because I look around at my group of girlfriends who are all our same age bracket, and they all are financially savvy. They have good jobs. You know, they're beautiful people, you know, inside and out. They have like so much going for them. But yet we're all single. And it's like, what is going on here? And you can tell, like, you know, there's different perspectives, right? There's the ones that are like, you know, they are kind of rushing it. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. They're taking any date you know, that's extended to them, because who knows what might happen. And then you have others that I think are more of our mindset that are like, I've waited this long. Why would I settle? You know, if it's not the right fit for me, why would I alter my life? Like, I found happiness within. I know that I'm worth it. Why would I, you know, change who I am just to have a partner? And, you know, I wish more women would see that, you know, and realize it starts, you know, with you.
Absolutely. I think for young men too, I really do see some genuinely wonderful relationships where it's just like a dream team, and it's amazing. And again, I think it's a personality that really works with the personalities that they have, and then the team membership, I want to say, that they have collectively, their love, their relationship. And then on the flip side, I do see a lot of the relationships where they got married because they felt like they had to, or it was the next step, or they didn't want to be alone. And to me, that's like the most selfish response. Like, you're taking over another human's time and energy in life because you don't want to be alone. And I really do think that happens a lot. And there can be that, you know, the other degree where it's like, well, you know, nothing's good enough. Like, no man or no woman is good enough. And that's, I think people might think that's the side of the fence I'm sitting on as well. Well, like, what you expect is so much, or what have you. And that's not the case. Because again, as you get to know yourself, you know that you're not perfect, and we all have our flaws. And so there's space and grace for a human that's actually a human. But there's those two perspectives, like, well, this is good enough, and this must just be what marriage is like. I'm happy enough. And then there's the other side, like, nothing's good enough. So it's crazy to see these two parallels, but I think what they both have in common is, it's the one side is like, it's better just to be myself, but this side is, I'd rather just be with somebody. And we're both kind of living these delusions that's happy, and that neither side is actually happy. So I don't think our kiddos really get to understand that, yes, that internal happiness is first, and then you can build that happy relationship. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just think we're so culturally driven with the wrong messages of.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, there's like a stigma, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and that you don't understand how hard really marriage is in all the best ways. Like anything worthwhile is tough. You got to work at it. Like as an athlete, you don't just walk on the field and be a champion. You have to do many hours and many reps. And I don't think people understand that with relationships.
Well, yeah, and we're in such a, culture right now of instant gratification and, wanting everything, and things are disposable, right? And if it's broken, we throw it away, and get a new one, get the, bright, shiny object or whatever, the latest and greatest is. And that's kind of what we've done then with relationships. Instead of putting in the work and the effort, we're just like, okay, that's done, move on to the next one. And then that's when you start to kind of like also see patterns of behavior and, them not working out for the same reasons. But it takes a lot to go, okay, let me take a step back and self-reflect. What's my, role in this scenario? What's my role in this not working out? Am I, choosing the wrong type of person, or am I not ready? Do I have something that I'm carrying over from a past relationship? I mean, there's all these different, scenarios that come into play. And I think that's when you got to find somebody who, is willing to learn and to grow with you, because a lot of the stuff isn't going to be uncovered on, day 1, day 5, day 10.
Right.
Like, it comes out over time, and, that's where you kind of have to have grace with each other and go, okay, it's important enough to me. This person is important enough to me to want to do those things with and to want to work on this with.
Yeah. Yes. And I couldn't imagine, and I think it happens at different times, but I couldn't imagine being married before right now. And not, because just knowing, like, even like thinking about my 20-year-old self, like I knew a lot. And I had, as a D1 athlete, I had gone through some things. I tore my ACL, so like surgery was a major, pivot in my life, like taking away an identity that I clung to. And, I had some experience, like life experience kind of early, but I couldn't imagine like picking a soulmate or picking a partner for life at 20 or even 30. Like that's, I might be a late bloomer on some things, but I just couldn't imagine. So I really do respect my young humans that know. And I do think there are some out there that really do know, but I would certainly encourage everyone. I wish they'd make it even part of like our educational curriculum for our young humans to get, not to avoid relationships, but to get to know and build that relationship with yourself first. And really understand, what you care about in life, and understanding that that's what you can expect from another person, and really demonstrating what healthy, successful relationships are. Like we were highlighting, communication, respect, grace is huge. These are all things you don't really learn until you've gone into a relationship, broken up, and then you learn what you want through all the breakups. It's like, oh, well, I need this, or I care about this. And you don't really know until you've like hit the wall and had to run through it. So I wish they would highlight that more to our young people, to really figure out what you want so you don't get locked in. I think it's, at moments it can be hard to be on your own and doing your own thing, but I don't think there's anything worse than being in the wrong situation. I really don't.
Right. And I don't know, do you watch any reality TV?
Oh, I for sure do. I'm here for the reality trash. Absolutely.
I have recently been binge watching Married at First Sight.
Oh, yes. I love it.
I love it too. And I think it's like, I've been finding it even more intriguing because I'm like, okay, they didn't pick each other.
Yeah.
And they had experts match them. Yeah. And then just watching the different scenarios of what, problems arise, whether or not they're representing their authentic self.
Yeah.
And just watching their communication and how they're guided in the different exercises the expert have them do.
Yes.
I'm like, whoa, like we are watching like, this evolve, and they have help like accessible to them, and just still how much, like you were saying, how much work and time and effort and energy have to go into it. And it's like legally binding. I'm like,
oh yeah, they don't play. I think there's so much intel, like you just said, to pull out of that and to see for yourself, for young people. I love that it meets our young humans where they're at, like through reality TV. Yes. And yet it's like you're actually getting education. It's like putting spinach in a fruit smoothie. Like you don't know that it's there. So you're like getting this education or this nutrition without even knowing. So I love that. And I like seeing, there's transparency when people do it for to get famous or for the attention or for the cameras. Like you can see them right away. And there's been a couple of guys where you're just like, you can see it.
Dude.
Yes.
Right.
This most recent episode. And I'm like, oh, and the girl was such a good girl. But I also think this might help her onto her next path. Like I do think there's as much intention and work we can put forth in what we want. I do think universe, God, whatever you believe, has scenario and things working the way it needs to work. So it's a process of intel and putting forward and seeing some of these scenarios or being intentional and even putting yourself in a show that marries you right away. But still there's a larger order. But yes, it's fascinating. Would you do it?
Okay, I wouldn't necessarily do that. That scares me a little bit, but I did apply for Love is Blind season 2.
Yes! Dude, okay, that was like, I want to say like the cooler, like more like fast forwarded version of Married at First Sight.
I don't know why one looks like a little bit more glamorous than the other. I think because the different element is I would actually be choosing if there was a potential, match for me there. Whether, obviously it's not based on appearance, but the voice and the getting to know them myself.
But they have no, not to interrupt you, they have no unattractive people on there. Like
that's true.
So there you're good.
Yeah, right? Like the casting is great. I would 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, I think most of them are socially thirsty as far as like Instagram and followers and whatever. Like, okay. Like there's Emma to all of that. I particularly on a couple of the couples on Married at First Sight, I think the cameras really kind of ruined it for some. Like the one guy like really hated the cameras. So I think that's different. But
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. Love is Blind. I think they're all they're out there for the likes, but some of them really worked and I was genuinely impressed.
Yeah. Who knows? I don't know if any of these things work, but I find the social experiments interesting, fascinating, interesting, and just like that dynamic, because I think at the end of the day, like what it is like, I'm a romantic and I love, like my favorite thing to do is when I meet like a couple is to be like, how did you guys meet? Because everybody has their own story and they're all so vastly different. And sometimes you're just like, whoa, like something did bring you together, like fate, the universe, whatever, like there's no way like you were supposed to be in the same place at the same time, but you were. And then you built this beautiful life together. It's crazy.
Yes. Well, first of all, if you get on Love is Blind, I'm so rooting for that. That'll be great for your podcast and potentially great for your life. That's amazing. I think it's really fascinating, just like you're saying, how things kind of come together. And if you're not doing a good job, like for yourself, having, like arranged marriages, that's an, ancient tradition in many cultures. And this is our Americanized way of it. Of course, it's like the most aggressive and it's on TV and reality and whatever, because we're Americans and we have sponsors and commercials to pay for. But, if someone really they're experts and they can do a better job than you're doing, I don't think that I would be completely close to it. That would be scary for me. I don't think I could lend a hand out to that just because I feel like I'm just so random. I don't know that someone could really find my guy like that. I don't even know if that's just like me trying to dodge a bullet. But I don't know. I would be curious. But the ending binding of it, of like getting married, is, damn, that's aggressive.
Crazy, right?
That's a leap, man. Yeah. And
I'm sure it hits you like a ton of bricks, but you see them, right?
It does,
You see them like stressing and whatever, but I don't know. Who knows? There's weirder ways to meet each other, right?
I think, and for me, for some reason, I do just think it's going to be the most random thing, and I'm just going to be like, oh, and I don't even know why I think that, but
I love that you do, because you know what I mean? It's like you're secure in that. You know what I mean? Like there's no doubt in your mind, like it's going to happen, and you're not putting it on a timeline. You're open to it. You know what I mean? Like that's a great perspective to have.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know that I know it's going to happen. I guess I think I do. I'll have to like sit and really let them marinate. I'm glad you said that. But I will say at this point in my life, just like you were saying, I genuinely like appreciate the work that's been done on myself and in my life, like personally, financially, whatever. And I appreciate, you know, my house, my dogs. Like I really like my life. So it would take something really significant and meaningful to want to subject that to not being what it is now. And I'm okay with that. But gosh, it takes time to get to even to that space. So that's all the more reason I'd be like, well, this has really got to be meaningful, because I have gratitude for where I'm at and what I'm doing right now. So I don't know. But then again, I think you get like, oh, this is comfortable. And then tornado comes in. And it's like, oh, well, this is here. So don't get complacent, you know? Which will bring me to my next question. We had our initial phone call. You talked about, you know, dating, your online dating, what have you, and then quarantine happened, and you decided to quarantine with a guy you were dating. Can we unpack that a little bit?
Yes.
If you want to.
So, no, of course. So, so we had gone on 3 dates up until like the stay-at-home orders were in place. So, you know, kind of chatted with my mom about it a little bit so it was his ask. He was like, what do you think about doing this?
Okay.
And, you know, so kind of talked to mom because, you know, in the initial stages of stay-at-home, there was like a lot of fear. I don't know if you felt the fear, but I felt a little bit more of the fear, like, okay, like, do we have any human interaction? Like, what's happening? You know, do I leave my house? You know, I mean, in the beginning, I remember just being like fearful of getting my mail just because of what you saw in the news. And then I was like, I quit watching the news because I'm like, I can't. And so we kind of just like, you know, we just kind of talked about it. And I thought, well, what if I don't take the chance, you know? And this is the guy that I was mentioning who, when I asked the universe for a certain type of person, like, I'm like, okay, he breaks all the rules. Like, so I didn't meet him on an app. I met him on the app that I don't usually have success with. So I met him on Bumble.
Oh, okay.
And I usually complain about Bumble because I'm one to like write a witty like opener. Like I like to, you know, be punny or whatever. And so I would take this time to write these witty openers. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. And then like nobody ever writes back. And I'm like, okay.
Is Bumble the one where the woman reaches out first?
Yes.
Okay.
The woman has to reach out first. So he happened to live about 30 miles away, which is also a no-no in my book because in LA, I don't know, like, I know it's different in Colorado, but you know, here 10 miles can take you an hour, you know what I mean? So I'm pretty particular about my boundaries, but on this particular day when we matched, he happened to be in Hermosa, which is right next to Redondo where I'm at. So anyways, and we had good back and forth dialogue. We went on a couple dates. Like I remember him walking in, I took him to Shellback. I had to ask Rico, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side. And Rico actually gave him, he was like, thumbs up. He did say, he was like, he seems to be a little bit older than you, Erin. And I'm like, well, he is. So he was 45.
Okay.
He kind of had a little bit of salt and pepper. But I very much, there was an attraction there. Again, good conversation. We were laughing. You know, like things were just going well. And so obviously it progressed to date 3. And then he asked me to do this. And so I'm like, well, what if I don't do this? Like, how long are we going to be in this situation? Right. So it was just a lot all at once.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, I'm like, okay, let's do this. Right. So I'm going to tell you the demise of it, which is probably a little bit on me, but I said, yeah, like, okay, let's do this. And as we went into quarantine, I was very much like trying to be super healthy with my food and like follow a certain, you know, like workout and stuff. Cause I'm like, I'm not going to gain the like COVID-19, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be good here. So I was like, if you want any snacky items, like you bring what you want. Like I'm not snacking, I'm being healthy. But I was like, I have all the booze because I am team tequila. So I have all the booze. So
my girl.
Yeah. So he comes over and he's got all of his work equipment. Like he's bringing in his home office and he is going to set up that home office on my kitchen table. So all of a sudden I am like, okay, whoa, this is like really happening. So he's got his dual monitors, he's got all his shit, you know, and he shows up empty-handed. And I'm just thinking too, like, I don't even think gifts are my love language, but like, I just wanted to feel a little bit like pursued or appreciated, or you know what I mean? Like I wanted him to like show up with a like intention, like I don't care, like
a bottle of tequila, fool. Yes, read the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
Right? So
JB.
it doesn't do that. So I'm like, okay. And then the nice things about it were you get to know each other, like, right? So you're having these like intimate discussions, you're getting to know each other like on a fast pace because you're spending so much time together. And every day I had somebody to go on like a nice, like, 7-mile walk with. And, that was fun. And, I have like silly things like backyard patio furniture that no one sat in my place. So I'm like, let's kick up the fire pit and, chill and relax. And I'm like, this is great. But boy, it felt like going from date 3, which was nice. I was being courted. I was, being pursued and, being treated a certain way, to like being somebody's wife, like, and I'm like, no. Like, you can't just, I'm not doing your dishes. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
hell no.
I know.
And he was at your house? Yo. Ooh.
Yeah. So it just went like 0 to 100 real quick. And I'm like, okay, you are showing me your tells, like, and I am very much now, I am not about changing anyone. Like, what you see is pretty much what you get. I mean, I think there are some things that, people can improve upon, but if they are glaringly obvious, at hello, then they're probably not going to change vastly. So, so anyway, so we go through the first weekend, and I will tell you, when he left, I didn't feel like an overwhelming, like, oh, he's gone, and I thought that was weird. I was like, I expected to really enjoy that time and to like enjoy, the dynamic, and in what other universe would we be able to do that? But that didn't happen. And then the next weekend, he wanted to come back. And so I was like, okay, maybe I just was like having a moment when he didn't show, like maybe my expectations or whatnot were, I was just, I don't know, but I wasn't. And so after that, it was like, okay, you got to call it off. But I think there's two schools of thought, because like you mentioned, there's a certain segment of the population that would have gone, you're having 0 human interaction. This is a human. This is somebody you can physically touch. This is somebody who's there to conversate with, like, because I live alone,
Yeah.
And like, you might as well ride out the wave. But for me, I knew, like, in my gut, and I have to trust my heart, like, it's not going to change. And then, like I said, as much as those things like that I wanted, in characteristics and traits and aesthetics were there, like these core things that I didn't even really know I needed or wanted in a human, didn't show up. And I was like, no, I can't. I'd rather be independent and happy on my own than, putting up with something that I wasn't on board with, like that,
Oh, well, what you did, right? You did Married at First Sight, sans the experts. So you careful what you put out there. You got that. And you got things that checked the box. And then it was like, girl, here you go. Here's the whole.
It was like, well, shit, do I throw the whole list out the window? But I mean, I don't know. I had never factored in that the universe could deliver, because I revisited the list after I met him, and I was like, whoa, all of these things are there. But there was just, these other things missing. But I'm like, I don't know. Do you go make your list more robust, or do you just like, what do you do? I don't know.
I think the biggest piece of 2 things I think that are really good for anyone that's taking notes on this. Number one of the best lessons I've ever learned and continue to learn, you have to meet people where they're at. 1,000%. You can't want to change them. Even if you want to change them, don't waste your energy. People, you really do have to meet people where they're at. And I think there's an evolutionary point, and a thing that happens. I would certainly consider myself an evolved human and continuing to evolve. But the core of who we are really it's right there. And, we're a collection of our experiences, and how we, our love language or behavior is, that's kind of, it is what it is. So you really have to meet people where at, and that overlays in business 100% as well. I do a lot of consulting, and people basically pay me to come in and advise them how to change. 9 times out of 10, they don't want to change. They'll still pay, but they don't want to change.
Right.
And that's something that's professionally for me.
Yeah, because change requires work, right?
Yes.
And it requires, looking within and being self-aware and taking responsibility, really.
Yeah. And so takeaway there, you got to meet people where they're at. The second one, I think you also said, you got to trust your gut. I really think your body, we can get really complicated with like telling our friends and getting advice and reading these books and doing the, if you just pull back and listen to your body, I swear your intuition, and you can talk yourself out of it just like you did when you're like, well, maybe it's this, maybe, and I do that all the time. And then I look back and I'm like, no, I knew. Yeah. I knew right away this was the wrong decision, and I could PR it any which way I want in my head, and I do, and I continue to do that. But I knew what it was right away. And I think that's a skill set in itself. It's really hard to just trust your gut both ways, because sometimes that can be the crazy decision of like, no, I think he should move in. Like, let's do this. Like, for some reason, I think this feels right. And you can talk yourself out of that. So it's really hard to go back to like our instinctual, like we're animals, go back to our instinctual, beings, like fear, flight, like excitement, like you have to lean into those things. And Maya Angelou says, one of my favorite quotes, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And that is also, I think ties into like believing your gut. But okay, so it ended and
It ended, yeah. So that is no longer.
What'd you do with the list? Did you rip it up, or did you build it out, or what was the response there?
Okay, so I didn't touch it, but I had an exercise from, have you read the book Future Boards?
Future Boards.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have not.
So I had Sarah Centrella. She is the author of the book. I had her on my podcast.
Yes.
And she's very much into manifestation and, the universe. And she's manifested probably over 250 things in her own life. And so I found her one night. I literally wasn't sleeping. I was like scrolling through Instagram, and then I came across her profile, and I was like, okay, how come I don't know about this woman? And I basically was sucked in, and then I messaged her, and we connected and had this phone call. Well, or podcast interview essentially. And then I met her in person, which was even cooler. But she gave me this assignment, and I hadn't done it until after this experiment, or allowing him to move in. And that was, she wanted me to write a letter to my husband as if it were 5 years from now.
Ooh.
Wow. And I think there was a reason why I didn't rush out and do that, because it's a very interesting concept, and you have to completely alter your way of thinking and go, whoa, is that really, do I really see myself married in 5 years? Do I really see myself sharing my life again with somebody? And so I did sit down and I did write that letter.
Okay.
But I haven't revisited the list. And I'm in a situation right now where I will tell you also, I don't know if it's good to get outside involvement, because when you're trying to figure like advice from your friends or input, you know what I mean? Like
1,000%.
Whether you solicit it or not. But it's like gathering evidence or something, and the more you get, the more confusing it is to come up with your hypothesis of where that thing should go.
Yes. I think it depends on who's asking, and who, as in like me, or like the subject asking the friends. And I think it depends on the friends. If you're someone that has done, let's say a lot of work, you've really gotten to know yourself, you've got, intel on yourself, and you understand processes, you've read, love languages, like you have experience in it. I think you can lean on that gut, like really trusting yourself. If you're not someone that has done a lot of work, and you do have friends that have done the work, I do think seeking that advice is good. Because I have friends that are phenomenal about, articulating advice and coming in from a very, unbiased, well-intended space. And then I have other friends that are like, nah, F that dude, he's a douchebag, which they might be right, or whatever. Or he might be a great guy, and they just like him because it's their brother or something. Like, I think that there's, you need to know where you stand in that and what friend you're asking, and then being able to decipher that advice, being like, I do think that's good, but I think pieces of it are good. Just like business advice. I don't think you need to take as a consultant, you don't need to take 100% what I'm saying. Take pieces of it and then apply it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
I know it's hard. And I think that's where I'm at in my own journey with myself, and what I've kind of been talking about, like, on my pod lately, is like this feeling of being lost, but maybe I'm not really lost, but maybe I'm just growing and evolving, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. But because of outside pressures or influence, it translates to being lost, because I'm just kind of in this weird limbo.
Yeah.
And trying to sort it out. And I think too, like, I'm a people person, and the fact that we're like confined to our own homes, and our human interaction is so just limited right now.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Has that really worn on you, you think? Like, has that quarantine?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said in the beginning, I'm normally traveling all over. So I'm in and out of airports, in and out of the hotel. I mean, I hadn't even spent a week consecutively here. Even the week that I moved in, I was, still traveling and going about, my business that way. And so, I met my neighbors through this experience. I'm like, yes, somebody does live here. We've been more recently like doing these driveway parties, but I will tell you, my driveway has like magical powers or something, because who knew you could get so turned up in the driveway?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, Team Tequila, you put them anywhere and you can get it done. Are you kidding me? No, have more faith in yourself. I feel like you already said you were done with the dive bar. You can have a party anywhere. It's all about the human and quality tequila.
That is true, but I'm like, now my neighbors probably wish they never met me, because I'm
they're welcome.
Come over, stocks, whatever. But yeah, I just want to know, like, at the end of all of this, like, where do we come out? How do we come out? Are we better, stronger? How is it going to change, like dating as a whole? I would love to kind of know that landscape, because, it is going to be different, right?
Yeah. I think quarantine, ironically, hasn't been hard for me, and I have people call me being like, yo, you're so social, or are you okay? What are you doing? And I think I've really realized, and I've always known I'm like, I love social, I love humans, I love teens, and then I go away and I recharge. Like, I need a serious non-human timeout, and I need like my space. In this, I've really learned how actually introverted I can be, and I've been super busy, and I was never traveling as much as you were, and I have dogs, so that also kind of adds to like the chaos of traveling. But half of last year I was traveling as much as I ever have. And it was fun stuff. It was good. It was work, but it was social and whatever. It was really not my vibe. It was not my jam. And I would have thought that's something that I really liked, but I am a homebody, and I've actually really appreciated this slow down time. And I am concerned long-term, just, how is this going to impact small business and my small business? But then on the flip side, I really do, maybe I'm just fully entering like my hippie, religious belief, faith phase. I don't know. Maybe that comes as you get older, but I feel like it's just going to work out. And I can feel this transition of like chaos and party. And now it's just like, we're still going to have a little of that. Don't get me wrong, but it's slowed down, and like cooking and reading and relaxing, and that might have an expiration date. I don't know, but I have really liked it. And I think I've recognized how much energy I put into other people and other things. And maybe you do this too, being so extroverted and being, just kind of a bright light in the room, which I could already see even just through this, that you are that human, I think you recognize how much energy you put out. And I really realized that needs to come back into me. And with all of that energy going out, there's no room for a relationship. There's no way I can, connect or communicate or give or do anything extra if all of that's going out. Where that, provided so much in my life in this break time, I really do see how much I've had to cut back on that, and how nice it is to have more of that for me, and how much I need to have that space for somebody else. Because I don't think I really I knew that I did that, but I don't think I really knew how much I did it until it was like full seal off time. So it's been hard, but I will say personality wise, I was never the girl that's like, I can't wait till I graduate college and then I'm going to get married and here's what my wedding looks like and this is what my job is going to be. I was the person that was just like, yo, I just want to graduate and I don't want rules anymore. I still want to work hard and I just want to do it on my terms. That's all I cared about. So this kind of not knowing what's next is not, it's not uncomfortable to me.
Yeah.
So maybe that's good. Maybe now it's time for people like randos like me. I don't think that's the norm, but so maybe now that's good for people like me to kind of just thrive in space like this, or I don't know. But I think most people are like you, where it's okay, what's going to be next? Like what is happening? Yeah. Like what can we expect here? Because this is it's scary. Like we don't know what's next.
It is scary, yeah. And I think too, like for me, part of that is I have enjoyed being at home.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I like, and not just like being at home by myself, but like being in one place, having a routine. You know what I mean? Just kind of feeling grounded and knowing like what the next day brings versus being like, okay, what hotel am I in? What floor am I on? You know, like which rental car were you in today? And, you know, like that chaos that kind of comes with just being in a different state every single week. Yeah. And there are great things about that. I mean, I've gotten to see so many places I probably would have never been. I've had so many experiences and nice meals and, you know, all these things that like I haven't had to pay for. You know, I've gotten this experience and it's been, you know, treating clients and stuff like that. But, you know, what does the new normal look like? And I always kind of had this thought that maybe I would meet somebody else in my travels, you know, like some, you know, like Hallmark movie where you look over and, you know, the guy sitting next to you and you got bumped to first class and he, you know, whatever. And just,
no more Hallmark for you.
There, right. And then there somehow is a dog involved who's underneath the seat and you get to like.
And there's a wedding ring on its collar.
I'll take care of the dog, you know, the rest of the flight, whatever that may be. But, you know, it's just interesting. Like, okay, you know, but there's nothing wrong with like a change in that regard either. Like, you know, I would be open to it. It's just, I'm instant gratification. I'm like, tell me now, what's it gonna be, you know?
Well, but again, I think that's the norm. And this is why I'm passionate about my podcast and absolutely disrupting, you know, what we think social norms are in this, you know, graceful disruption. I should have worn my other shirt. Because we are, through marketing, through branding, through culture, we are fed a dream. And it's not that I'm a hater and I don't think these things can't happen. I just think most of it is so unrealistic that you have these expectations, you build this story in your mind. And the only reason that was even constructed was because it was selling clothes or a Hallmark card or what have you. Like, that's not really necessarily how it is. And I don't know in most of these stories when you've asked couples, like, how did you meet? If it really did sound like that Hallmark card or that story that we've seen. Maybe it has, I don't know. But in my experience, I don't think a lot of it happens the way we've seen it in the movies. Or
it's definitely not that like seamless and, you know, without any bumps in the road. But
but even if it was that, like, I don't know that would be our dream. Maybe it is, but you know, just like you said, you kind of had that teed up exactly where you thought you wanted it. Here's this guy that checks all these boxes and he wants to move in during this quarantine time where we're locked in, and then you come up for air and you're like, oh, fuck this. Like, what? Like, oh, your shit's on my counter and like you're eating all my good food. Like, so I don't know. I just think that there are different versions of what is ideal for many people. And again, it kind of comes back to getting to know yourself. And this is absolutely as much for me to hear as for any of my potential listeners, to let go, let some things work out. And I think I've said this on many casts, my hardworking, intentional humans like you know, we're going to work harder. We're going to do more. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to study. Sometimes it's just about being still, slowing down, and like just let some shit play out, because and that's hard for me. Like I'm not the one that's like, oh, it'll work out. Like we'll do the work, we'll do this, we'll study harder, we'll train more. But
the sweat equity, that's what I definitely, and that's, I think, the hard thing is about dating and relationships is in any other aspect of life, weight loss, a career, you know, a goal you set for yourself, the harder you work, the more time and effort you put in, like, you know, all of that can be achieved. But like in dating and relationships, you still have this component that is outside of your control, and
Absolutely.
it's that the other person. And once you're in the relationship, yeah, you can still put forth the effort, the time, the energy, that type of thing, but like that initial connection really needs to come organically, and shouldn't be forced, because if it is forced, then it's probably not right.
Well, and I think you nailed it. That's love, relationships, what have you. I think it's the one thing you can't train for or prepare. I think you get to your best self. I think get your finance, get your credit right, like do all the shit. You can be an attractive package, not just physically, financially, mentally, everything. But really, like you have to get to your right space. But really, this isn't something you can practice or plan or do. And I liked when you said you're right where you're supposed to be. Like maybe in our minds, we didn't see ourselves single at 38, 39, whatever, maybe 40 and 45. I don't know. But I do believe, like universe, God, whatever fits in your world, something looks out. And if you are in good space and you are doing the right thing, this is where you need to be right now.
Yeah.
So I take faith in that. I am curious, so when you sat down to write the letter to your future husband, in your mind, did you immediately see yourself married? Or was that like, what was your initial reaction there?
So I did.
Okay.
And so I love to write. Like if I could go back in time and pick a different major and whatever, like it's on my bucket list to write a book one day. So, once I start, like, and I'm not talking like on the computer, I am talking like pen to paper.
I totally, dude, you could write fiction. You just wrote a whole Hallmark video.
Right.
I'm being an asshole.
Like, her imagination. Yeah.
Totally. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I just sat down one morning with my cup of coffee and I just like let the pen, take over and just write. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because it is kind of, make believe in your mind or whatever. But once you start going, it can just really flow. So yeah, I mean, 5 years from now, I was married with a kid. So
yes.
So we'll see what happens.
I totally see it. I completely, and I know we don't really even know each other, but I 1,000% see it. I really genuinely do. And I'm not just saying that because I know that's what you essentially want to hear. I'm not that human, but just energetically and work you've done. And it's not just about marrying, like you said, just getting married, which I think a lot of people do. And some people are okay with it, like a business transaction that works for them. And I don't even hate on that. Like that suits you, follow your heart. But I could see a partnership and all of a sudden just kind of like a new leaf turning, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny too, like the things that I really want in a partner are like so silly. Like I am a huge football fan.
Oh, okay.
I have had season tickets for like 6 years. I travel to the away games. Like it's on my bucket list to go to a game in every stadium. I just want to know, like on Sunday, this is who I'm bringing to the game with me.
Yes.
Like,
who's your team?
Like, isn't that funny?
I think I think it's funny because I think the little things in life are the big things. Like all that, because that's your life. Those are your days. It's like your everyday. It's not, the wedding's great, which I think people spend way too much money on it because go buy a house instead. And I'm also in marketing branding, so I see why these are multi-billion-dollar industries because, again, we're watching Hallmark, so we know we need to spend more money than we have on a wedding. But I think the day-to-day stuff, absolutely, the football games, who you're making dinner, or they're passionate about food, or they think it's cool that dog fur is all over your shit all the time. Like that is the stuff that's the meat of your marriage,
Right.
Who's
like those bonding moments, the memories, the things you create together. Yeah.
I completely agree. What's your football team?
Oh God. I am a huge Chargers fan.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where that look was going. I'm like, did she either has like a list of 50 or I don't know.
Oh, no. I'm diehard Chargers. Like I've been to London to see them. I went to Mexico City last year to see them. Yeah, I'm diehard. I've been on the Chargers cruise.
Okay. So, that's a thing?
That's a thing.
Okay.
Sadly, it was canceled this year, but yeah, it's a thing. And I don't know, like I just have this love for football, and it's weird because it wasn't always there. And like I'm a big person who's like no regrets in life, but I think I do have one, and that's going to a college without a football team.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My college actually didn't have they had a club football team, I think, but we had a really good basketball team. We didn't have football.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that was something that I played sports, so we couldn't really party that much. So I didn't really care. That might have created conflict because I for sure would have aired on the party side. But I feel like we did miss out on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's just funny. So I feel like I kind of like am Benjamin Buttoning my way through life because I like partied hard in high school, which was a whole another lifetime. Then I, tried to overcorrect myself, went to private school, where we didn't have the football team. And then I got out of college, got married, pretty shortly after. And then after I got divorced, it was like, okay, the partying's back on.
Yes.
And now I'm like, okay, you're 39. Should you be like blacking out?
Yes. Well,
I'm 38. Look, I don't even know my own age. I'm telling you.
Have you been drinking today yet?
I have White Claw brain, okay? It's all bad.
Dude,
it's tequila.
Yeah, it's quarantine brain. I think
seriously, the thing.
We've been taught to, again, we're supposed to act a certain way at a certain age. I promise you, I have enough friends my age that are in our same situation. It's happening. And people may not talk about it, or it might be cliche or what we're not supposed to be doing, but
we're doing it.
Yeah. I actually didn't. We partied a little bit in high school, not really. And I was passionate about being recruited, and I was already climbing up a hill coming from, Midwest, trying to play out East. We were way far behind for lacrosse. So I was serious. And then in college, we trained and we worked hard to compete and play. So after college, I was like, okay, this is my college. And I think, that's stuck since college. So, I mean, the branding is real. That you don't have to question if turmeric and tequila is a thing. Because I was also very into fitness. So I don't know. There's no judgment from here is the short story. Yeah. Well, I want to be mindful of your time. I think you've shared a lot of really great information, and I love learning from experience. So I really appreciate you talking about your personal experiences. I think that's always way more impactful versus like reading out of a novel or an education book or whatever.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this has been so much fun.
Yay!
See, it's just like talking to your girlfriend. It's like,
totally.
But everybody else can hear.
Totally, I know. Which that might not keep it. That might keep the sponsors away or bring them in. I don't know. We'll air on either side. We're keeping it sponsor free for right now. But is there one piece of major advice that you would give, maybe this can be two things, and we'll wrap up after this, but about getting to know yourself that you would say to young women or young men, and then second part, one piece of advice that you would say around dating in general?
Okay. So getting to know yourself, since I'm in the process of getting to know myself, I think one thing that has been kind of hard, especially living in like California and having, so much pressure based upon like you need to look a certain way or dress a certain way. There's a ton of money that goes into the industry of like Botox and injections and extensions, and you can really get kind of like wrapped up in that. One thing I'm really focusing on right now is like not comparing yourself to others, and just really accepting and embracing what makes you unique, because, and I think, women, we're hard on ourselves, and we're always our worst critic. And if I were to look at a girlfriend or a girl I see on the street, like I'm going to think, oh my gosh, she's got a beautiful smile or beautiful hair, whatever it is, like trying to find the grace and kind of self-love, and just kind of enjoy the journey. Like it's good to have a goal, like if you want to lose weight, whatever, but like embrace the journey and know that you're just becoming the best version of you, if that makes sense. So
Very well
I don't know if I answered the question, but that's kind of like where my brain is at with that,
I think that's huge. It made complete sense. And I think it was really well said. If you ever have an end game as like an athlete or a career person or what have you, I think anytime you've gotten to that goal, it's like, yes, I got there. And then you kind of look around and you're like, or I won the medal, or I did what I wanted to do. And then you're kind of like, okay, well, what's next? Like, do I get back to training? Do I get on to the next career level? Like you really do got to look back and see how that process of even getting to the end game is the prize, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think gratitude is huge too. So I don't know about you, but like one thing I like to do every morning is just jot down 5 things I'm grateful for, and just remember, like, you know, what we have and our unique talents, or, you know, things that we've been provided with. And I think it's just nice to take a moment to reflect on that. And I think it just makes you a happier person.
Completely agree. I liked what you said about comparison. I think there's a quote, it's like, comparison's the thief of joy. I think that's huge. And we are inundated with messages and, you know, things all the time. We are constantly, you know, critical on ourselves. And having, you know, that ability to just kind of let go. And what was the last piece you just said? I just had a fleeting thought.
About the gratitude?
Sorry. This is, I haven't even had White Claws or anything today, and perhaps that's the situation. But gratitude journal, this will hold me accountable. I'm glad you said that. I've been meaning to do that, and I haven't, because I completely agree with you. We are swimming in privilege and blessings and all these things, to sit down and reflect and say, I'm genuinely so thankful for this, or even the bad stuff, or things we label as bad. Like, as you said in the very beginning, thank you to my ex-husband. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And that ties in with that
it takes a while to get there, but once you're there, you're like, okay, you know, and then I think, you know, you're ready for the next thing, you know, when you can look at that. And so you said advice with dating. What I would say is embrace the process, you know, and if you really genuinely put yourself out there, you know, don't look at it as a good date or a bad date. I mean, a bad date is great for a good story, but, you know, find the lessons in, you know, the dating process, and just really embrace the journey, because it's not like a rush to find the person, but you're getting to know people, and you can make a lot of friendships too, you know, or like, I mean, when you get really mature about it, you can go out with someone and go, oh, you would be a much better fit with my, you know, friend so-and-so. And that's the fun. You're growing your network, and you're meeting people and learning about different backgrounds and cultures and stuff. And that's the part I love. It's the people meeting, and, you know, just embracing humanity, really.
Yes. Oh, and our world needs more of that in general. It's not really just about dating or relationships. It's about self-love, you know, respect, grace for other people, getting to know humans, regardless if it's romantic or not, finding space for them and meeting them where they're at. It's all good life skill.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. You're a bright light. I'm so excited that you have, you know, the strength to be so vulnerable, and you're sharing your journey. I think way more young people need to be hearing these things and hearing, you know, successes and failures that we've had, so they can, you know, provide some space and grace for themselves and know that the process is real. It's all where it needs to be. And you can just chill out and have a nice tequila if you're 21 and take a deep breath. But Erin, I appreciate you. Where can we find you? What are handles, websites, whatever you want to share?
Sure, yeah. So you can find me at You're Such a Catch on Instagram, all social media platforms. And then if you also want to check out my spoofy little Instagram, it's Snuffling Queen. Obviously, you probably heard me snort, so self-proclaimed, but I am the Snuffling Queen. So those are both my handles.
I love it. And real question, this is my last one. Have people come at you and been like, oh, why aren't you married? You're such a catch. Like, did that really come from because it was happening a lot?
Yeah, that's why I came up with the name, because it would probably happen like once a week at least. Someone would say that, like, they would meet me and they would, you know, say like, I can't believe, you know, nobody snatched you up yet. You're such a catch. Yeah. And then I was like, okay. I'm tired of people saying that, like, what is it, you know? But no, it's funny. And then it just kind of evolved, and it's like, we're all a catch in our own way, right? Yes. I mean, that's the truth. Like, we all have this unique something to bring to the table, and I don't know, I like the positivity of it and just kind of the nice like connotation. And since it rang true, I was like, all right, let's roll with this.
Universe was like, no, this is the point. This is the product. Like, you're just not seeing it quite yet, and then you put it together. And I can't agree with you more about the little idiosyncrasies that make you and yourself. Embrace it. You pay people like me, consultants, branding professionals, a lot to tell you what's already there. Like, just let it be, let it marinate, and embrace it. But I'll let you go. Thank you so much. Please check out Erin. Her casts are fun and they're raw and they're honest. Authenticity is king in my world. That's why I started my cast. So I have massive respect for what you do and your ability to share. And I think it's very impactful. So let's keep in touch. If you are married in the next, I don't even know, let's say a year or so, or if it's soon, and you need someone to pour tequila, I'm here. You let me know. I will show up. I'll provide the tequila. We'll put it out to universe and we'll keep in touch.
Let's do it.
Cool. Okay. Good luck with everything. Keep in touch.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.